Welcome to our session, wsTOOLS for Job Cost Users. I'm Cheryl Simmons, and I'm very excited for you to walk through this session with us to learn about all the tools that can make you as a job cost user more successful and more efficient. Today, during our session, we're going to walk through a handful of tools at a time, then demo some of those. Again, we'll walk through some more tools and demo. And if you have questions about any of the tools that we're walking through, please make a note of those. And again, at the end of the session, I'll talk about how to get a hold of us. Let's get started. The first tools we're going to take a look at are Job Cost Division Change, Select Job Transfer, Simple Use, Vendor Changer, PO Roll Down, and Quick PO. First one is Job Cost Division Change. And this one allows you to change a division from one to another, even though you have posted cost transactions to that job. And what division change will do is actually take care of creating the GL transactions for you from one division to the other. So you don't have to manually do those transactions to transfer those transactions to that from one division to another. Second tool is Select Job Transfer. And again, this is one of our probably more popular tools on both the service side and the job cost side. It allows you to transfer transactions, like individual transactions, from one job to another. And by doing that, it'll actually create the GL transactions for you as well to make sure that if you're switching from different divisions, etc., that it's posting to the correct information. And again, we'll see this one in action in a few minutes. Next up is Simply Use. And this is for all of you that need use tax and track that information within your financial system, as well as you can have that data flow back to your job cost or to your service transactions. When you're in, let's say, a payable transaction entry window, and it calculates a tax, like in this example, $300, and it's using the GP tax schedules to do that, you can mark this as a use tax. Well, then you'll notice that it has a use tax line where it's going to back out that dollar amount as well as add that dollar amount. So the invoice it's really posting to the vendor is still the same, but it's going to account for the use tax transactions that you need to be posting to your job, let's say, as well as to your general ledger. Next up is PM Vendor Change. This allows you to enter a transaction, save it. Let's say you have not posted this transaction. You can pull it back up, and you'll notice that the vendor field is grayed out, so you can't change it. But with our tool, Vendor Changer, you can, under the additional menu, go ahead and select a new vendor ID that you want to have on the transaction, and it'll actually update it, the distributions and everything for you. And you can move forward without having to delete the transaction and rekey that information. And this is also true onto the PO side. Same thing, where again, let's say you've entered a purchase order, you got all the line item information in there, and you find out that that vendor can't fulfill it, or you entered it incorrectly for that vendor. Then what you can do is, again, do a vendor change on it, enter in the new vendor that you want to have that purchase order go against. One thing here for changing of the vendor is you can't do that once the purchase order has already started to be received against. This is only for your new purchase orders that you can do that with. And we'll see that in action here. PO roll down. This one comes in also if you use the capability of, let's say, copy POs. And if on your jobs you have the same things that you're ordering over and over to send out to job sites, what you can do is create a purchase order kind of as a template, right? And then you copy from one purchase order to another. And then with the PO roll down tool, it'll actually roll down the new job information from one line down to the next. And so you don't have to manually go in and add that data. With the copy doesn't bring over your job cost information. So again, fun functionality to see. And then Quick PO. What Quick PO allows you to do is, for let's say a technician out in the field needs a purchase order in order to buy something to take it on site. What he can do is send an email to a designated email box that actually will be listened to on the back end, and it'll go in and create a purchase order heading for you, and it'll send back to the technician, here's your purchase order number. He then can send the information, attach it back to that email and send it over into your back office, right, and put in the accounting detail that you need to based on what he purchased. But again, it allows that technician in the field to get the purchase order number that he needs and to keep moving into his regular day-to-day activities. All right, now's a good time to take a break and do a demo and get to see those in action. So let me go ahead and bring up our GP. And the first one that we're going to take a look at is that select job transfer. So let me open up that window. And let me go ahead and bring up 105, that's our job here in the sample data. And you can put in different starting date, ending date information. Like, so if you know it's a transaction that posted in the last week, you could enter that and then click redisplay. And based on the criteria that you enter on top here, it'll list the data down below. As well as if it's a certain type of transaction, like it's a labor transaction or it got posted to equipment. Again, you can unmark and mark different ones here, and that'll control what displays here on the bottom portion. The transactions are listed here by source, so you're going to see we have some from inventory, some from payables, payroll, and we also have general ledger and receivings transactions out here. Let's take a look at one of the receivings transactions because they're a little bit different. You'll notice they have an asterisk right next to them, and that means that there's more to it than what you see on the window. So if we select this first receivings transaction here, we'll notice that it has 3 related transactions. What does that mean? If you click on related transactions, you're going to see for this particular purchase order, there are 3 receivings that have been against it. And so you'll notice here a cost of $22,500 as the 3 transactions add up to that. So when you're selecting this line item here, it's actually going to be taking that information and transferring it over to the other job. All of those transactions, the purchase order and the receivings information as well. As well as if you expand these out, you're going to see that you get additional information based on the type of transaction that it is. And this is a window that you grant security to because you'll notice that it is listing employee information here, their department pay code, as well as the cost information. And so maybe you don't want everyone to see this information. Again, it's a window that you can secure just with your security within GP. So once you've selected a transaction that you want to transfer over, so let's go ahead, let's just select this transaction here, this payroll transaction. And again, it can be one transaction, or you could even do them all by marking this checkbox up here. And then you select transfer to job. So basically we're saying we want to transfer this transaction from job 1005. And let's say we're going to transfer it over to 1001. Cost element. So we're going to do labor to labor transaction, but if you had others where, let's say you had posted something to miscellaneous materials, but it really should have went to equipment, you could still transfer those into the different cost elements. If you try to transfer labor into something other than labor, you're going to receive a message telling you that you cannot do that. Labor is hard-coded to always be in labor. So here for cost code, we need to bring in a labor cost code as well. So we'll go ahead and select that one. And here again, if we have related transactions with those purchase orders, you would see those costs here as well as what you have selected. And when you're clicking transfer up here, it's going to be transferring that data, again, in my case, from job 1005 to 1001. And it's going to be creating a GL transaction entry for those costs as well, because could be for a different division, different cost code, etc. So it's creating that in the general ledger for you. So very cool tool. Again, like I said, very popular one that people use that. Let's move on and talk about some vendor changing things. Let's see, let's bring up the payables window and let's pull up a transaction, pull up my batch here. So here we see I've entered a transaction for a travel company, And if you want to change the vendor, you go up here to change vendor ID. It opens up the window. And again, you just use the lookup window. And let's see, we are for Ace Travel. Let's go ahead and go to ABC, the plumbing, and commit. And you'll notice that that's changed over. So at this point, you can just save your transaction, post your transaction, and move forward. So you didn't have to rekey, redo your distributions, all of those type of things. So very cool. Purchase order has the same capability. So let's go into purchase order entry and see that as well. I got a purchase order up here. And again, this one is to the ABC Plumbing Company. And if you wanted to change vendors on it, change vendor ID. Brings up our second window here. Again, you can choose to change that over to, I'm going to take mine to the travel company now and commit those actions. And you'll notice that it's made those changes. Okay. The other thing we talked about as a tool in here is that you have the ability to roll down the job numbers. So let's go ahead and pull that up. I have a purchase order in here with multiple line items on it, as you can see. The first one does have the job indicated on it. So let's go ahead and go up under additional. You have the ability to roll down job numbers or roll down service call numbers. And so we're going to roll down job numbers. We're going to choose roll forward with the exceeds messages. And basically it's taking care of those messages if the vendor wasn't assigned on those particular items. So all of that comes into play. And again, we'll scroll back up here, but you can see that they're all assigned now to that particular job that the first one was assigned to. We'll go ahead and commit that and save those changes. All right, so that are the three different roll downs, I guess we'll say, for the features we're going to demo. So let's go ahead and switch back over to the slideshow and walk through some more of our tools. Next section gets us into 4 more tools. So tool called Quick Find, and this gives us the capability to have find more than just job invoices. We can find customers, service calls, etc. So we'll see and talk about more of that. Time correct, copy paste, and web time entry. So let's get into each one of those. Quick find, again, here we said customers, vendors, service call, and invoices is the information that you can find. And you can choose to turn on any one of those 4. And we'll take a look in our demo at the invoices in particular as we bring up for job cost invoices. But what's one of the cool things about this tool is you don't even have to spell things right if you can't. It has the intuitive search. So if you have somebody's name that you're trying to type in and you get close, it'll do a search, whether it's against the contact field, the customer field, and try to bring up that data as close as it can based on what you typed in. So you can do it, even it contains, it's something plumbing, but you're not sure what the first name is of it. You can type in that kind of data and have it find it. Next one is time correct. So this one is very handy. Let's say if you've gone through and you've entered transactions, you've committed your time track batches, and then you find out that somebody entered, let's say, a union incorrectly, they entered to the wrong job, any of that kind of information, you could use time correct to fix that as well. 2 choices here in time correct. You can choose just to reverse the transaction, or you can reverse and create a copy of the transaction so that you can edit and then make the data fields accurate that you need to. And again, it gives you that capability of just reversing or reversing and creating a copy. Another name that you may have heard this one go by is Union Correct. So in case you see that listed out on the website as well. Copy and paste, this is one of our newest tools, and this gives you the ability to bring data from outside of the system into the signature transaction entry window with job cost and service information on it. Where GP has the regular copy paste, but it doesn't allow you to have the job cost service information on it. So again, it can be a mix of service, job cost, or unbilled altogether, as well as it does print a validation report. So if you have missing data or inaccurate data, it will tell you that, so you can fix it and then repaste and re-import that data in. And again, we'll take a look at that particular feature too. And the last one in this section is web time entry. And this gives you the ability to enter your labor transactions through a web browser. So you could be doing them on a computer, on an iPad, and having the data be recorded and go into your time track system, just like recording data, whether it's from clock or from mobile tech. So we'll take a look and see that one in action as well. So let's go ahead and get back into GP. And the first one we're going to take a look at is Quick Find. And Quick Find, it can be opened with hotkeys. In this case, Control F3 is the hotkey for finding the invoice. And so let's say that you know the last three numbers of the invoice are 004. When you click search or return on that piece, it'll bring up anything that's got 004 into that invoice number. And you'll notice that we have transactions from service, we have transactions from job cost, and even some project billing transactions. And you can double click on the line and it'll bring up that transaction so you can actually view it and take a look at it in the inquiries. So very cool, very powerful. Again, helps you find data at your fingertips as quickly as you can. And we mentioned this is the invoice one, but there's also searching for customers, vendors, and service calls as well. Next feature we're going to take a look at is the copy paste feature. So let's bring up the signature transaction entry window. And here, to start out with, you need to fill out the header information. So let me go ahead and I got my batch in there, got a date, got a reference. All right, and now on my Excel spreadsheet, and again, we ship out a sample spreadsheet. I'll put this in the front here. So I'm going to go ahead and just bring in these service transactions, and I'm going to go ahead and choose copy. And under additional, I'm going to choose the copy paste functionality. And there we go. It's bringing in my two transactions that I needed to bring in off of that spreadsheet. And then from here, the debits and credits are brought in. It's doing all the checks. If there was error messages that it needs to display, it would print out a validation report and tell me if I was missing any of that data. So quick and easy, again, bringing transactions in from the outside world, whether it's an integration or monthly transactions that you need to record. Again, a simple copy paste gets those transactions into here, and save your transactions and post them, and off you go. All right, the next feature is web time entry. So let's bring up our browser so we can go into there. And you only need to be an employee. You don't need to be set up as a technician in order to use our web time entry. And again, as an employee, you would have a login information. You'll notice on this window that we have the ability to enter time for individuals and for crew. And in our scenario, we're going to go through and enter for an individual, but when you enter in for crew, basically it's entering transactions for the, let's say, 5 people of your crew at the same time. So as I go through and say, I worked so many hours on Tuesday, those transactions would be entered in for all the employees. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't edit them. So let's say your crew is 5 people, but on that particular day, one of those team members was not there. So you have the ability to delete that transaction or edit so that he only worked half the time as well. So some cool capabilities. So here we're going to go in and enter some transactions for Alan. That's who I am today. Go ahead and say we're going to do a new transaction. We're going to say it's a transaction type of a job. You pick the day of the week that you're doing your transaction. And then here from a job perspective, we have a couple different things in setup. So you can choose to only have the jobs that show up here that have an appointment for this particular person. And so you can set it up that way if that's the way that you've always had your scheduling pieces done. Or you can pick and choose which jobs that are open that you want to have show up in this window. Or you can say, give me all open jobs into this particular window. Then we're going to be doing a labor transaction here in our sample, but again, you can record expenses. Your cost codes are based on the job that you have selected above. I'm going to choose my pay code, and again, these are pay codes assigned to me that I would be selecting from. You can type in a description of what you're doing that particular day. So I'll just type description, and let's say I did 4 hours on that particular cost code. I'm going to click update. So here you still have the capability though to go in and edit this transaction. If you typed 4 and you really meant to type more than that and you wanted 6 hours, you could change it. You totally screwed up, wanted to start over, you can press delete. At this point, it's still in your browser, but once we click submit time, at this point, it is sending those transactions back to TimeTrack, just like your clock transactions and your mobile tech transactions. And so it's collecting that data back into TimeTrack so you can still do your approvals, your edits, and that type of data. It is gone from your device, if you want to say, from the browser as soon as you click submit time. But we also have the capability to view history. So here I have view history, and again, you can view history for current week or prior week. And here you'll see I've entered in 3 transactions this current week for Alan, myself, in the different hours and the descriptions that I've typed in for those transactions, as well as you can see prior week, and you don't have to worry about people saying a week ending date and typing that data in. Here it's just radio buttons. You choose which one you want to view. So very, very handy, very, very cool functionality. And it's meant to be simple, easy for people to get in, use the drop downs, pick their data that they need to. And again, it's only data that shows for them from like an individual time entry. And again, submitting it sends it into the back office. At this point, we're going to take a little time out and we're going to hear from Gwen from Piedmont Services Group and hear how she's using web time entry in her business.
Hi, I'm Gwen Smothers, and I am the Business Systems Manager with Piedmont Service Group. We have been on Kita Act since 2009. In 2014, we went to Kita Act's mobile tech version for our technicians to use, but we just found that it didn't really relate to the job field very much. So we decided to start looking for other ways for our guys to enter their time. We actually had hired a person. We have approximately about 50 project technicians that were trying to use mobile tech, and we hired someone that would try to set up their appointments that's needed in order for them to use mobile tech. And it just got to be so much on that person and trying to keep up, and the technicians in the field trying to have these appointments on the jobs. And then we got ready to close the jobs. We had ones that didn't get completed. And so it just was causing a lot of extra work for us to use mobile tech. Last year, we were at Synergy, and we have a great relationship with implementation specialists. Deb and her group of people, and we saw their demo of this web time entry, and immediately I got on the phone and contacted a couple of our project managers, and I was like, hey guys, I'm sitting here, this is web-based, the guys can do it on their phone through a web portal, and it goes straight into Kita Act, into TimeTrack, and there's our solution to them being able to do it from their mobile device. So we have been using it ever since then. We love it. We do not have any issues with it. It was very easy to deploy, very easy to train our technicians on how to use that. So we really have enjoyed using the web time entry.
Thanks, Gwen, for those kind words. Now on to the last section of our tools for job cost users. In this section, we're going to cover Quick Mail, Drawer, Speed Switch, Customer and Vendor Modifier, and Power BI. First tool up is Quick Mail. Quick Mail gives you the capability to email copies of your invoices, let's say, to customers and save what you're attaching to the customer in email onto your master record, so onto your job. So you can keep track of what was actually sent to your customers if you ever need to refer back to it. And we'll take a look at this particular product in the demo. Drawer. This gives you the capability to store documents in a document attachment, but securely in 10 different file drawers. And you can decide who gets security to each one of these file drawers. And it can be different per file drawer. And again, we have these for employees, customers, vendors, and inventory. So master records is where you'd be storing these. Next up is Speed Switch. And this comes into play if you have US payroll and lots of employees. Back in the day, Great Plains used to count the number of employees that you had and you were registered by that. Well, that code is still in the system doing those counts, but you don't register like that anymore. And so that code really isn't needed, but it's still doing those counts when you're switching companies, and this particular tool overrides that. Customer and vendor modifier and changer. You might think, I have this tool, that's part of Great Plains, and you are totally right. This tool extends what you have in Dynamics GP by adding in the job cost, service, and equipment tables from Key to Act. So when you now combine customers, it'll combine that data within the Key to Act tables as well, and the same on the vendor side. So again, it piggybacks off the Dynamics GP functionality and makes sure that other extended products like Key to Act are taken care of as well. And the last one here is Power BI. At Implementation Specialist, we have dashboards specifically designed for job cost and for service. And again, like this job cost dashboard allows you to pick and choose the data that you want to see, drill down further into that data to see the details, automatically refresh it on a real-time basis. Again, if you're interested in getting into Power BI dashboards, we can certainly help you out there as well. So let's take a look at Quick Mail. Bring up GP. First, we'll take a look at the setup window. Just want to point out a couple of things. These are the different documents that we're supporting today. We're going to take a look at the job invoice. And on this setup window is where you can determine where you want to store the data. So do you want to store it into the database or into a directory? Out into your network information is where do you want to store that, just like where you would for your other WS docs. Turning on enabling quick mail over here is that checkbox. You have the ability to name the file of what you want it to be called. We also have templates that we ship out that you can modify, and you specify those email templates, and you can override them when you get to the point of emailing the document, but it just gives you that capability for to put in a good start. And then also the subject line that you want onto your emails. Well, let's go in and take a look at a job invoice. Let me close that one up. Here I have a job invoice already created for one of my jobs. And normally you would save it to a batch, print it, go and post it. Well, here under additional is the capability to email it to the customer. So we're going to go ahead and choose Quick Mail. And again, you can set the default of what report it will be automatically going to. So if you remember back in my setup, I had that it would go to report 1. Oh, and I went on to my other screen here. Let me bring it on over. All right, and I did not have an email set in there automatically, but you could have put in an email for it to default in. And you can do that by roles, where you could have, automatically sending it to the payables role at the customer site, and you can have that default in here and bring in that email address. And it can be to multiple people that you have the emails going to. So if you want to keep a copy, etc., you can do that. So here you see the template information coming in. It's got the information about your invoice that you have. that you're sending out. If you want to view documents, you can click on the view document, and obviously you need to have your document viewer set up to be able to receive PDFs in this case. But you can see the SRS report that it generated and that it's going to attach. And again, you can go ahead, click email, you can type in your credentials, and it would be sending that data off. And once it sends the data as well, it'll be attaching the invoice onto your master record, in this case, the job. So fun functionality, again, it's across the board, and that you can have it for both service and for job cost. The next slide really gets into the roadmap. And again, we have a few things I'll just highlight here. We're in 2020 plus, and quick mail we've already just talked about, as well as CopyPaste. We have a few things on the horizon here for the next half of the year, as well as we would love to hear your feedback. So if you have suggestions for additional features into the tools that we have, or new tools that we should be adding, please reach out to us. We would greatly love to hear from you and get that information. We also have a user conference coming up in November, and we do a Key to Act days as well as GP days. You can see that here. It's on the Microsoft campus towards the end of November. So if you have any interest in that, please check out our site. It has all the details, pricing, everything. So encourage you to come. We'd love to see you there. If you remember early on, I talked about making sure you keep those questions that you had or comments as we went through our tools. Here's all of our contact information, phone number. You can send an email directly to sales@iscorp.biz, as well as go to our website and check out more information on our tools. It would have other webinars, other 2-minute tutorials, just kind of how our tools work out there as well. Again, greatly appreciate you spending time with us today. And if you do have questions, please reach out to us at Implementation Specialist. We would love to hear from you. Thank you.
Wait, everyone. I want to make sure you know about our Synergy specials. If you buy one product, you get 10% off, 2 products, 20%. If you buy 3 or more, 30% off your tools. So definitely check us out. If you have any questions, here's our contact information at sales@iscorp.biz, our phone number, or again, our website to check out our tools. Look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.